Why doesn't the whole world crumble into chaos every time something shakes? What really lets matter stay in one piece instead of falling apart? In the energy filament theory, the answer is not 4 forces hold you still. It is something even simpler and more ruthless. The energy sea only keeps the texture patterns that cost the least effort. Everything you call matter is just the surviving low-effort designs. Start from the smallest scale. A particle is not a tiny dot, it is a filament loop cinched tight by the energy sea. It survives only if its way of coiling and circulating fits inside the local tension window with minimal strain. Any badly wounded loop becomes an unstable particle that collapses almost as soon as it appears and gets rewoven into new structures. It is like kneading dough over and over. You can fold it in many awkward ways. But after enough pressing and resting, only the folds that feel natural stay, and the rest relax away. The fact that particles carry mass, charge, and spin is not a list of arbitrary labels. It is the set of interaction patterns with surrounding textures that the energy sea discovered as just right for savings efforts. Every property is really a balancing point where pushing, pulling, and swirling cancels out most cleanly. Move up one level to atoms. Protons and neutrons are held together by 3 bridge structures that lock quark loops into little fortresses. These shapes, for a given cosmic tension, are the cheapest way to store that many loops in one spot. Electrons circling the nucleus are not being pulled by an invisible hand. They hug particular orbits because those are the places where the inward slopes from the electric fields in the sideways slope from their own spin and phase balance into a path that is easier than crashing inward or flying away. One loop around that track is the laziest possible way to keep moving. And that tracking is what you learn to call an energy level. Put several atoms together and the same rule keeps going. When 2 atoms' outer textures line up in rhythm, the energy sea opens a shared corridor between them. Electrons can move more easily than they could by staying confined to separate orbits. As electrons run back and forth on that corridor, the path gets etched deeper into the medium until it becomes a robust, low-cost highway. From the outside, we renamed that highway a chemical bond, but underneath it is still just the sea rewarding a particular shared motion because it is cheaper than having 2 isolated atoms jitter around on their own. Once you have many atoms and bonds, you get molecules, and those do not live in isolation either. Their textures leak outward and interlock with the textures of neighboring molecules, pulling and bracing and yielding until a much larger pattern emerges. You can picture that larger pattern as a mesh of shared paths. It has been pushed and jostled for a long time and has gradually slid into a shape where further rearrangements would cost too much energy. A solid is a mesh where almost every path is pulled into a well-settled position. Disturbing one connection tugs many others, so the structure resists and springs back. That is why a stone feels rigid under your hand. Rubber is a mesh that is tight overall but with strands that can stretch and slip a little before snapping back. You can pull it into a new shape, but the network remembers its original low-effort configuration and returns as soon as you let go. A liquid is a mesh that has been loosened to the point where many connections can break and reform without much penalty. It's like a net so flexible that its knots keep sliding. Molecules still sense each other's presence, but they can constantly rearrange to explore new low-effort patterns. You see that as flow. A gas is what you get when the connections are so sparse that molecules mostly just drift and bump. They briefly sync rhythms and then fly apart again. The network is more about short-lived encounters than about any lasting structure. The table in front of you, the metal in your phone, the water in your glasses and the tissues in your body are all made from these overlapping meshes. They look still, but inside them countless filament loops and texture pads are making tiny adjustments every moment. The only reason you do not notice is that the whole system is sitting in a deep valley of effort. Everyday vibrations and taps are not strong enough to push it into a different arrangement. From smallest to largest, the universe is running the same algorithm. Whenever the energy sea can find a route that is smoother, cheaper, and less strained, it nudges the structure in that direction. It keeps nudging until no easy improvements are left. What you call a particle, an atom, a molecule, A material or even a living body is just a layer in this cascade of best available shortcuts. Long-lived patterns are what you experience as matter. Short-lived patterns are continuously rewritten and reabsorbed. The world is not stable because it is clamped in place by rigid forces. It is stable because, after endless microscopic trial and error, only the most economical texture combinations are still here. Tap follow, share it on New Physics, Clear Universe.